party siphelile. The implementation is not there. Let me close my, I will be tempted to answer all what has been said here. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. So, each department is really national and province is nizizwele nani. I will now lastly call upon civil society perspective on the importance of presidential sector, social sector summit, the one that you know very well who's been crisscrossing, Mr. Thulani Chefuta, please.
In conclusion, with the greatest of respect, we rise on the already established protocols and convey our critiques to the entire leadership that is here. Special greetings to the leaders of various sectors of civil society that are here. We are indeed happy to have this platform of high engagement with the most senior levels of government. Many others, including in the media interviews that we're doing in the course of this week and also this morning, there's a question that all media houses ask on the need for these summits. As civil society, we're convinced that we need these summits. The differentiating factor about these summits that we need is that they must be linked more to action than just the talk. And we are happy that as we enter the second day of this summit, we are not only going to have a framework agreement that encapsulates the spirit of understanding on the issues that we have expressed, but some of the things that have already been presented from commissions are being translated to representatives from new forms of organizing and campaigning. You have representatives from civics, as led by Sanko. You have representatives that come from all 9 provinces of our country that were democratically selected to be part of this session. And many, many other sectors that are represented here, as the attendance register will attest. There is no big a meeting that you can have, President, with any structure of civil society beyond the delegates that we have here. So indeed, we can confirm the community and civil societies here. The model of social dialogue in South Africa has taken the approach of social partnerships, and the community constituents and or civil society as one of the social partners acknowledges that there are distinctive but complementary roles that should be played by these social partners. In those distinctive and complementary roles, the point which has been expressed here already is that they are programmed in the nature of their design. However much you can try, they will be stillborn and be suffocated by bureaucracy if you attempt to implement them as government without collaborations with civil society. The fight on drugs as one of those examples of programs need more community hands than policing. You can't police socio-economic challenges. Beyond that, we acknowledge that in the government you lead, President, you have elevated the goal of building a capable, ethical, and developmental state into priority number 1 of the medium-term strategic framework. That priority is not about the state and instruments of government alone. Embedded in that is a strong tenet of active citizenry. Our presence here is to rise and claim that space, that when we build a capable, ethical, and developmental state, it is a state that will be buttressed on the active participation of the people, which that state seeks to serve. There are few themes that in this summit we have explored, one of which is on legislation and the regulatory environment. We believe that the constitution of our country, for which we must keep reminding you that you are the author, President, and you should know it more than any one of us, provides for a flexible enabling environment for this cooperation between government and civil society. The supporting legislation, policies, and regulations that should be developed as led by the Portfolio Committee, the Department, and Parliament as a whole, should provide an enabling environment for civil society to thrive. Regulations must not tie our hands and feet through over-regulation and thereby change the very essence and the DNA of civil society, which is that of agility, responsiveness, relevance, self-reliance, and sustainability. The one-size-fits-all regulations does not appreciate the fact that civil society organizations have different organizational forms and structures of governance. We took time to discuss issues about capacity building. The overarching goal that we want to achieve with capacity building is that we want to build structures of civil society that are vibrant and fit for the purpose. And the purpose we define as the National Development Agenda. That purpose is not a purpose that is self-serving for our organizations. The success of that purpose is to rise with the development of our communities. Capacity building is indeed a critical factor in adapting and repositioning civil society. We know that there's an outcry that since 1994, civil society has not been able to adapt and reposition itself. It is through these capacity building interventions that we're positioning ourselves differently in the new and the current environment and context now. The point we're making on capacity building is that we may not need new resources to pursue this. We must start by streamlining already existing resources. Those resources are sitting in the National Department of Social Development. They already have the mandate, they already have the budget for it. Let's repurpose it. Secondly, the NDA has that mandate legislatively. It must just go all out and make sure that it is a mandate that is not secondary to the other functions of the NDA. There is no SETA in South Africa today that does not have a mandate of capacity building for SMMEs, cooperatives, NGOs, NPOs, CBOs across board. We must just make sure that we bring those to a central point of coordination where we will be able to account for the impact of the resources that are being invested through those institutions. Capacity building is not a function of government to build the capacity of civil society. When we have apex bodies must discharge what you call membership services by building the capacity of their own member organizations. We must build what we call shared services. It is not every organization that is going to afford to pay a bookkeeper. Apex bodies must have a shared, centralized panel of bookkeepers that can be deployed and discharged to service all these organizations. We must not put a burden into the smallest of organizations where they have a small budget and they have to consider, should we use this money to buy bread to serve the people, or should we use this money to pay a bookkeeper? That is a false line that we must not create, and hence apex bodies must build and share that capacity. Organizations like Cyber, who are in the floor here, must help us train our bookkeepers and even anyone who is claimed to be elected as a treasurer of an organization so that we don't escape accountability.